Assalamu alaikum dear students. In the series of learning C programming, we are discussing structures in C. In the previous videos, we have discussed what are structures, why do we need structures, how to declare the structure, and how to initialize the structure variables, both at the compile time as well as at the runtime. That all have been discussed very minutely in the previous videos. And in today's video, we are going to discuss one more topic, one more concept of structures, that is the array of structures. In this video, we will discuss what are array of structures, why do we need the array of structures. That all will be discussed in today's video very minutely and thoroughly with the help of the program example. चूंकि अस पढ़ान स्ट्रक्चर्स CS मज तो पतमन वीडियो में स्ट्रक्चर क्या गो तो अस क्या पे जरूरत स्ट्रक्चरन हिंस तो अस कन इनिशियलाइज तो डिक्लेयर करान स्ट्रक्चर तो अस कन इनिशियलाइज करान स्ट्रक्चर वेरिएबल्स और ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ द स्ट्रक्चर both at the run time as well as at the compiled time. This story कोरस डिस्कस पतमन वीडियो में तो अजुक सोन इस वीडियो छु सोचा से array of structure मुतलिक आज वुचो अस कि array of structure क्या गो तो अस क्या छ पेवान जरूरत array of structures. So our today's topic is array of structures. So let us take the same example which we have discussed in the previous video. For example, here I am going to declare structure subtract student and these are the roll number, care, name, float, marks, and that's it. Here I have declared a structure consists of 3 members: roll number of type integer, name of type character, or more precisely you can say of type string, and marks of type float. As we have discussed it in the previous video, that we can access, we can declare the objects of the structure. We can create the objects of the structure, a variable of the structure, by using the subtract student. That's the name of the structure. Actually, subtract student is the data type. This whole from subtract student is data type, and we can declare it followed by the variable name. For example, here I am going to declare a variable, structure variable, white man subtract student S1. Here I have declared a structure variable S1, or we can say objects of this subtract student S1. I can declare S2, number of students. I can declare as many variables, as many objects of the structure as we need. But we know that if I have only 2 or 3 structure variables, it is easy to declare them. अगर मैं कम ही आसान जो चूंकि अशको जितने स्ट्रक्चर वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर करें इसे एक स्ट्रक्चर इंफॉर्मेशन S2 का दई में स्टूडेंट्स इंफॉर्मेशन S3 बनो 3 में मगर अगर ऐसे वन ऐसे वारियां लड़कन if we want to store the information of 100 students, then we have to declare the 100 structure variables, or we can say we have to create the 100 objects of the structure. That's the cumbersome. That's very time consuming process, because we have to declare 100 variables, or we can say 100 structure objects S1, S2, S3, and then we have to assign the values, or we have to initialize those structure variables with the information. That's a cumbersome. That is not a good programming practice. Obviously we can declare the variable 100 variables for 100 students to store their information, but that is not a good programming practice. The program will become very lengthy, and the program will not be as understandable as we must have. That means the program is, we can say it will become more lengthy program. So in order to avoid those things, we use the arrays. Actually, we have already discussed arrays in the previous videos. That what is array? Array is the collection of elements of the same data type. In the same way here, the data type is the subtractor student. We can declare the array of this data type, same data type, subtractor student. Here the data type is subtractor student. We can declare, for example, if we want to declare the array, if we want to store the information of the 100 students. For example, if we want to store the information of the 100 students, that is, we want to store the roll number of 100 students, name of the 100 students, and marks of the 100 students. So we have to declare the 100 variables in order to store these 100, we can say, objects. So in order to avoid that, thing, we use the array. How we can declare the array of these objects of the structure? By writing this data type, subtract student, and for example, S is the name of the object, and we want to store 100. Here we can write here 100, and that is it. आसानी सान हतस लड़कस खतर hot variable, hot objects was created by this using array. By using array, S is the name of the, and 100 is the name of the number of the objects that we want to create, that we want to declare. So this is the simple way of using arrays. It is called, this declaration is called array of structures. Now I hope now you have understood why we need array of structures. We need array of structures in order to, if we have to store the information of large number of the items, or we can say large number of the students, large number of the employees, in a 1 lakh employees. At that time, it is best that we use array, and we use their array of structures. It is called array of structures. In order to avoid the problem of declaring the 100 students one by one, if we use that method, our program will become very lengthy, and it will become cumbersome program. So to avoid that, we use array. This is one way of storing the arrays. Now for example, for simplicity, we will consider here array of 3 students, 3 variables. Here we have declared the, we can say variables, 3 variables, S up to S3. Now how we can, now question is how we can initialize this. How we can initialize this by, it is easy. For example, S of 0, array of 3 in the memory. In the memory, this will be represented as, for example, the 0th index, 1st index, 2nd index. We know that, wait, just a minute. How the 0th index, 1st index, 2nd index. We know that index of the array starts from 0 to n-1. Here we have to declare 3 variables. Here we declare 3 variables of type subtract student by using the array. That means the index will start from 0. The name of this is S. The name of this object is S. We can say S. What does S store? Actually, it may have some, for example, 100 is the base address of this array. 100 is the base address of this array. This S contains the base address of the array. We can say the first address of the first byte. First byte of the array is going to be stored in this S. So the name of this subtract student, this variable, this object contains the first address of the first byte. That is the address of this. For example, if the address, here we assume that the address of this is 100, starting address, and obviously by default this S contains address of the first. So we can say that S is pointing to this location in the memory. Now what does this S contains? What does this S is the object of this subtracted student, because we have here declared S is the object, but which type of data type is subtracted student? That means this S contains three types of informations: roll number, care, and marks. Roll number, name, and marks. In the array, in the memory, it will be stored just like this. Here, we can store this information here, not here. For example, this would be the internal representation of this structure. For example, this is roll number. Here we can store the roll number. This is name, and this is marks. For example, 1000 is the base address of this roll number, and this contains here S1, that's the first byte. This contains the address of this array. 100,000 is the address of this. Now, S of 0 is pointing to this location. S of 0 is pointing to this location. This is S of 0. And obviously, we know that roll number, how many bytes roll number is type int. How many bytes integer occupies? Yes, it occupies 4 bytes of memory. So, we can say here, from up to this, it is 1004. Obviously, 1004, because this is the base starting address and it will occupy 4 bytes of memory. So here it would be 1004. And name 20 bytes. 1004 plus 20. Perhaps it may be 120. 1020. And marks, it will contain 4 bytes. That means 1028. No need to write here because we have only to store 3 types of information: roll number, character, and float. Now, how we can initialize this? And obviously, it is for S of 0. S of 0. We can now for S of 1. It is S of 1. S of 1 in the memory, it is represented like this. It is S of 1 here. Because S of 1 is the object of subtract student which contains 3 members: roll number, name, and box. And in the same way, S of 0 contains also these 3 attributes. So we can say, for example, it is the address of this is 2000. Address of this is 2000. S of 1. It will get stored here. We can say 2000 is pointing to this location, and it is the roll number of second student, name of second student, marks of second. And similarly, in the same way, here, for example, it has the base address of 3000. 3000 is going to store here. Now we can say that this location S of 2 is pointing to this, S of 1 is pointing to this, and S of 0 is pointing to this location. Now the question is how we can initialize these elements. What is the initializing elements? This is internal memory representation. For example, I message this current term that S of 0 equal to, for example, S of 0 equal to S of 0, just a minute. S of 0 dot rule number equal to 5. Take care. We have already discussed in the previous video that we can access the elements of an array, the members of the array, through the dot operator. Dot operator used to access the members of an array. So S of 0 of roll number. What is S of 0 of roll number? What is S of 0? S of 0 is this. And roll number of this location is here. For example, I have 5. We can assign it. And in the same way, S of 0 of name dot name equal to 6 equal to Yousuf. So S of 0 of name, this look, S of 0. S of 0 is pointing to this. Where is the name? Here. Here we will initialize it with 0. And in the same way, S of 1, S of 0 of marks equal to 90. S of 0 of marks is 90. Now, for S of 1, where is S of 1? This is S of 1. This is S of 0, this location S of 1, this is S of 2. S of 1 equal to of roll number, for example, equal to 6. I have assigned this 6. S of 2 dot name equal to Javed. S of 2 of name equal to Javed. And in the same way, S of 1, because we are accessing the members that are associated with this student. That means one student, S of 1 student. S of 1 of dot of marks equal to 80. So this will get. And in the same way, similarly, we can initialize the members of this structure. That means this was S of 1, S of 2. This is an initialization. This is a compile time. We can say compile time initialization of the array. Now I hope that you have understood how the structure members are represented in the memory and how the memory is going to be allocated by the memory manager for this structure objects by using the array. This is a compile time initialization. We can also use the runtime initialization for initializing this structure member using arrays. Now let us write this program. Let's check for example, this program. Take here. Guarantee karo sickness variable karo we declare. For example, what type of variable is subtract student? Subtract student S with the name of the variable S of 3. For example, I want to store the information of 3 students. And for loop I, because while we are going to use the runtime initialization using the arrays, at that time we use the loops. And for loops we have this I is the variable. For example, I will write here, for example, for I equal to 0, sorry, not I, sorry. I equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus scanf %d %s, sorry, %f. Address operator of S1 S of I, address SI of dot rule number, comma, S of I dot name, comma, address operator S of I marks dot marks, and that is it. If you observe, I have written here the address of operator. That means this. But in string %s, here I have not written the address of operator because they automatically store the address string. No need to, we can omit address operator in case of strings. So this is a way by which we can use this for I equal to 0, s of I. Take care. Here I have declared 3 variables. Take care. S of 0, 0, 1 and 2. Okay. For I is the variable which I have declared. I equal to 0. I equal to 0. Then function will get second. I less than 3. Yes. 0, the value of 0 is less than 3. Second, %d, %s, %f of, because we have discovered 3, this is a base address, and this base address, this is the memory for roll number, marks, name, and marks. Okay. For example, this is the base address of 100 and it is going to store here. Now this point is to this location. %d, %s. S, address of S of I. Where is address of S of I? What is address S? I is 0. That is S of 0. This is the location. Where is address? Address of, that is thousands. There is going to store roll number. For example, 5. And now %s. S of I of name. That S, what is S of I? S of I is 0. 0. Where? At name location. For example, there is Yousuf, and then S of I of marks, it is 90. And after executing this line, the control will go here. I plus plus. It will be now 1. It will now 1. Because we know that plus plus operator increments the previous value by 1. So I equal to 1. I equal to 1. Now the present value of I is 1. So here control will go here. I less than 3, 1 less than 3. Yes, condition is true. When condition is true, it will enter here. Second, %d, %s, %f. Address of S of I. S of I means S of 1. For example, the address of this location is 2000. For example, address of this location is 2000. And now we can say this is the memory where allocated by the memory manager for S2 student, second student marks. And it is address is 200. It is address is 2000. Now this 2000 is going to store here and it will point to this. Address of S of I. Address of S of I. That means address of S of I. S of 1. Where is address of S of I? That is 2. There is going to store roll number, for example, 6. Then S of I name. At the push S of I is 2, 1. That's the first store here, this location. It will get to name, for example, Javed. Okay. And S of I of marks at this location, it will get stored, for example, 80. And similarly, then I plus plus, it will become 2. Similarly, the information for this third student will get stored. And after reaching there, and then I plus plus, it will become 3, then control will get false and control will go outside of the loop. Now I hope that we how to initialize the structured objects using array of structures, both at runtime as well as at the compile time. And in this you can also print these values by using the printf statement and by using the for loop as well. And inshallah, in the next video, we will write the whole program, a full program using this array of structures, and here we will discuss thoroughly it is working. In this video, I hope now you have understood what is array of structures, why do we need the array of structures, and how to initialize the elements using the arrays of structures in structures, and how to both at runtime as well as at the compile time. And inshallah in the next video we will discuss the working of the program which will be based on this array of structures. Till next video, take care, bye bye.